All right, everybody. So now that we're moving into our third week of a sustained Black Lives Matter protest, I think it's time to talk about the ramifications of attending and holding these protests and pushing for police reform. And in case you were wondering, no, the ramifications of these are rarely felt by white people. Case in point, I found this very interesting tweet and I thought I would check some stuff out. Apparently, there have been 5 different people of color documented to have been found hanged in a tree in public in the last 3 weeks. Not in their home, not in their mom's basement, not where you would typically think of people who are going to commit suicide, but rather right out in public, in parks, where they can be found publicly and people can see these displays of white nationalism. Now, it's worth looking at these and how they occurred, and if there is a common denominator between them. What I will say is that as I went back and did some research, I found out that essentially every time there have been large sustained national protests over the extrajudicial killing of a black or brown person by police, mysteriously, there becomes a spate of black people being found hung in trees, all universally ruled as suicide by, wait for it, you ready? The police. I know, stunner, right? So, let's take a look at some precedent here. So, 2016, after the initial push of Black Lives Matter protests, after the killings of Eric Garner and Michael Brown and Akai Gurley, apparently there was a black man found hung from a tree in Piedmont Park in downtown Atlanta. Another modern day lynching. 2018. Fears of lynching in Atlanta area after 2 people are found hanging from trees. In the past 3 weeks, there have been 2 people hanging from trees in the metro Atlanta area. A woman near a Walmart in College Park, Georgia, and a man found near Atlanta University Center on April 27th. Both deaths were reported to be public suicides, because apparently people want to be publicly found committing suicide, but they only do it late at night when nobody can actually see them doing it. This seems totally normal and legitimate, right? Okay. Preliminary investigation shows the man had a chain wrapped around his neck. The chain was locked in several places, and keys to the locks were found in one of the victim's pockets. Investigators canvassed the area, located one person who said they overheard someone yelling, "Don't do it." This was also found to be a suicide. So apparently this sort of thing happens on the regular, and police just deem it as suicide, no matter if, there's extenuating circumstances or people say, "Hey, I heard somebody yelling, please don't kill me." Apparently not enough to take the suicide ruling off the table, because they're black people and they're in parks and, it's cool. So, let's take a look at what's been happening in the last 3 weeks here. Black queer homeless Portlander was found hanging from tree. Police say it's suicide. Of course it is. According to Portland Police Bureau, the death of T.D. Gully, 31, has been ruled a suicide. Oh, okay. Hanging from a tree in Rocky Butte Park. Also, public park. Amazing how that happens. 1 week later, protesters demand investigation after young black man is found hanging from a tree in Palmdale, California. 24-year-old black man hanging from a tree near Palmdale City Hall. Passerby spotted the man's body at 3:39 a.m. Emergency personnel responded, determined that the man was dead. The death was initially reported as an apparent suicide. This was reported on June 12th. June 14th, black man found hanging from tree in Manhattan Park. Pedestrian walking through Fort Tryon Park, Manhattan, discovered a black man hanging from a tree near the Hudson River. Authorities have yet to release the identity of the man and reportedly believe it's a suicide. Grim encounter comes within 1 week of 2 black men found hanging from trees in Californian cities that are not too far away. Oh, that's right. because there was a second black man found hanging from a tree a day later, just miles down the road from the first one in LA in Victorville. This gentleman was 38 years old, was found hanging from a tree near a homeless encampment by the Victorville city. The sheriff's department made the preliminary determination his death was a suicide and said no foul play was involved. He didn't seem to be depressed to anyone who truly knew him. Everyone who knew our brother was shocked to hear that he allegedly hung himself and don't believe it to be true. The explanation of suicide does not seem plausible. It seems that every single time a black person is found hanging from a tree out in public, police just initially rule it a suicide because why is it worth all the extra work? I mean, God, look at all the effort we have to expend to find out why black people are being lynched. Hey, look what we found from yesterday. A Hispanic man found hanged to death in viral video in Northwest Houston with suicide, police say. This gentleman was originally reported as a black man. They later reported he was Hispanic because apparently he had been hanging in a tree for so long, decomposition had set in, and he had become much darker to the eye because that's what happens when you are left dead out in public in the open air for 3 or 4 days. Detectives responded to an apparent suicide near Shady Acres after a video from the scene was circulated online throughout the day. Every single time, it is a person of color, it is ruled a suicide, and the police sweep it under the rug. Now, people in black and brown communities have literally been crying out, saying there's massive police abuse going on. We have white faux patriots driving into town at 3 o'clock in the morning with cars with no plates on them and just, scooping people up off the street and vanishing them. These reports have gone on for years, and for years they have been continuously ignored by the press and poo-pooed by the media. Now, obviously, I have no way to know whether or not all of these people miraculously made the decision to hang themselves in public places, and they all happen to be non-white. I mean, sure, that seems totally, mathematically plausible by about, this slim of a percentage. So rather than sit here and argue over whether or not these people could have killed themselves, because of course, it's the police who get to make the determination, and we know how the police feel about black and brown people asking to be treated with the same force of the police department behind them in investigations for the dead, the families of the dead and their loved ones. I thought we would take a look at how exactly, maybe, possibly, perhaps, in quote post-racial America, where a wide swath of Americans would have you believe that racism ended ages ago. I thought we'd take a look at possibly how this sort of white nationalism continues to exist. I don't know. Let's see. 2 weeks ago, men in Ku Klux Klan hoods carrying Trump flags interrupt Black Lives Matter protest in Nevada. That seems totally normal and legitimate too. Of course. Hey, let's take a look at this. This was last year. 4 teachers and principal placed on leave after cheerfully posting for a photo with a noose. Look, it's a Becky and 3 Karens. Ha ha ha, look at the noose. Oh, it's so funny. Oh, lynchings are awesome. Ha ha ha. Also, we're the ones who teach all the children who grow up to be the people who lynch black people. Ah ha 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 ha. Oh, it's so comical. Hey, let's keep going. Philadelphia Police Chief John McInsby calls Black Lives Matter protesters rabid animals. Hey, you know how it makes it a lot easier to lynch people and then not have the police or the media give a shit? By dehumanizing them to the point where you make an entire fucking piece of humanity sound so disreputable and so disagreeable and so beneath your notice that when they're found hanging in trees, you don't bother and you just say it's suicide and you call it a day. And the media just goes along with it. Yeah, isn't that simple? We need to do better as a people. Anybody committing suicide is a horrible thing. Anybody who feeling that their life just there's no opportunity for them to advance in life, that things are just so bad that they might as well kill themselves. And as horrible as that sounds, it's even worse. People being murdered and then having the police and the media work in tandem to make that murder seem like a suicide. like a random occurrence. So y'all, you need to channel your little dick energy into something else other than either trying to lynch black and brown people or trying to excuse it away or spending all your time agreeing with those gatekeepers who excuse it away. There's almost no universe in which it's plausible that this many black and brown people would just walk off into a public park and kill themselves, especially during times of upheaval when black and brown people are actually busy fighting to be acknowledged and treated as human beings. We need to do better, people. We need to do much better.